She was one not to touch it, but she did.
Put it down,
Let me
Ivy.
tell you a
You know
story.
better than that.
Not the kind
Are
with
you
villains
serious
and
right now?
heroes. This is the kind that happens quietly, in shared spaces, among girls who smile at each other every day. This is Ivy's story. Ivy moved into Maple Court Apartments with 2 suitcases, a small mirror, and one big hope. Maybe this place will finally make me feel like I belong. Maple Court wasn't fancy. It was a long, cream-colored building squeezed between a supermarket and a noisy road. Young women lived there, interns, small business owners, content creators, girls trying to figure life out. Everyone was trying to look like they had it together. Ivy was 22. Soft-spoken. Pretty in a quiet way that people don't compliment often. She shared a 3-bedroom apartment with Lola and Renee. Lola was loud, confident, always laughing. Renee was calm, stylish, and very protective of her things. Ivy admired them both. On Ivy's first Friday night in the apartment, they were getting ready to go out. Music was playing. Makeup was scattered everywhere. The mirror kept changing owners. Ivy stood in front of her open suitcase, staring at her clothes. They were clean. They were fine. But compared to the others, they felt invisible. Lola walked past and paused. Wait. Ivy, why don't you wear my brown dress? It'll look so good on you. Ivy hesitated. Oh no, it's fine. I don't want to. I beg, wear it. It's just hanging there. That moment changed everything. When Ivy stepped out in that dress, something happened. People noticed. At the restaurant, strangers complimented her. A girl asked where she bought the dress. Someone took pictures of her. Ivy laughed that night more than she had in months. And when she returned the dress the next day, freshly washed, Lola smiled and said, "You should borrow my stuff more often." Ivy didn't know it yet. But something had clicked inside her. From then on, borrowing became easy. It started small. A top for a dinner. Shoes for a quick outing. A jacket for a photo shoot. Every time, Ivy said thank you. Every time, she promised to be careful. And every time she wore borrowed clothes, people noticed her more. Compliments became addictive. You look rich. You always dress so well. You have taste. No one said those things when she wore her own clothes. At first, Ivy laughed it off. But slowly, she began to avoid her own wardrobe. One evening, Renee noticed. "You don't wear your clothes anymore," she said casually. Ivy shrugged. "Oh, I just like variety." Renee nodded, but her eyes lingered. Because variety was one thing. But Ivy was beginning to borrow without asking ahead of time. She would say, "I'm already dressed, hope you don't mind." And who wants to be the bad person? Weeks passed. Something else started happening. Returned clothes didn't look the same. A faint makeup stain. A stretched sleeve. Perfume that wasn't theirs. Nothing dramatic. Nothing you could shout about. But enough to be noticed. Lola stopped offering first. Renee started locking her wardrobe. Ivy noticed the changes, but instead of stopping, she panicked. When compliments slowed, she felt anxious. When people didn't notice her, she felt small. So she borrowed more. The first real crack happened on a Saturday morning. Renee had bought a new white jumpsuit. She made it very clear. "Please nobody touch this. I'm wearing it tonight." Ivy heard her. She really did. But later that afternoon, Ivy stood alone in the room. Music low. Mirror fogged from steam. She stared at the jumpsuit hanging there. Just for a picture, she told herself. She won't even know. That night, Renee came home early. And saw Ivy. Wearing it. The room went silent. I said don't touch that, Renee said quietly. Ivy laughed nervously. I was going to return it before you got back. Renee didn't shout. She didn't insult her. She just turned and walked away. That hurt more than any slap. From that day, things changed. Not loudly. Not publicly. But Ivy felt it. They stopped waiting for her. Stopped inviting her. Stopped sharing small joys. Ivy became socially invisible, the very thing she feared. And this was only the beginning. The lounge was unusually quiet. Ivy's heart pounded as she stepped in, the white jumpsuit clutched tight to her chest. Every step felt heavy, almost like the fabric itself weighed her down. She could feel eyes on her. She didn't need to look, she already knew the whispers had begun. Renee stood near the center, arms crossed, lips pressed into a thin line. Her eyes were sharp, landing on Ivy like a hawk spotting prey. Ivy, she said, voice low but firm, we need to talk. Ivy froze mid-step, forcing a nervous laugh. Hey, Renee, she said, trying to sound casual. But the smile didn't reach her eyes. Behind her, Lola hovered slightly, arms awkwardly folded, her expression a mixture of shock and concern. I don't know, she murmured under her breath, but Ivy caught it. Lola's voice, though soft, sounded louder than any shouting in Ivy's ears. Ivy tried to find a seat on the warm couch, but a friend across the room whispered, she always borrows stuff, and never gives it back. Another giggled, I can't believe she did it again. Ivy's hands trembled slightly, clutching the jumpsuit tighter. She tried to breathe, tried to calm herself, but the guilt and fear gnawed at her from all sides. Renee moved closer, her steps deliberate, measured. Ivy, she said again, this time louder, this isn't just about a jumpsuit. You're hurting everyone around you. Don't you see that? Ivy forced another laugh, shaking her head as if to brush off the seriousness of Renee's words. It's just clothes. I didn't mean, her voice faltered. She could feel the tension snapping around her like a taut string. Every eye in the lounge was now subtly on her, some curious, some judging, some whispering to each other. Lola's expression hardened. She stepped slightly toward Ivy, hesitant but firm. Ivy, this isn't like before, she said quietly, almost pleading. Ivy's chest tightened. She wanted to say something, anything, to smooth over the cracks forming between them, but the words lodged in her throat. The room felt smaller now, heavier. Ivy's gaze flicked toward the wardrobe again, as if the jumpsuit was calling her back, whispering the temptation she couldn't resist. She clenched it tightly to her chest, feeling a pang of excitement mixed with dread. She wanted the admiration, the envy, the look she imagined everyone would give her when they saw it. But she also felt the weight of disapproval pressing down, a tangible force she couldn't escape. Unable to bear it, she excused herself, murmuring something about needing air. She stepped out into the courtyard, the cool breeze brushing against her face, contrasting the heat of her panic. Students milled about, chatting, laughing, and some stopped, looking her way. Whispered comments floated toward her, fragments like knives, she can't be trusted, I can't believe she did it again. Ivy's fingers tightened around the jumpsuit. Every whisper cut deeper, yet part of her thrilled at the attention. She didn't notice Renee following, maintaining a careful distance. Renee's gaze was unwavering, a silent reminder of the consequences Ivy could no longer ignore. Lola appeared behind a tree, observing from a distance. Her expression was torn, she wanted to comfort Ivy but also feared backing her after so many mistakes. Ivy turned slightly, sensing someone watching, but before she could look, a figure emerged from the far side of the courtyard. A stranger. Watching. Smiling. Just faintly, but unmistakably. It wasn't friendly. It wasn't threatening either, but it carried weight. Curiosity. Judgment. And Ivy felt it instantly. Her breath caught. Something inside her shifted, a sudden chill running down her spine. She realized that this one small obsession, this single, seemingly harmless desire to borrow a dress, was no longer contained within the room or the hostel. It had grown. It had spread. And now, someone new knew. Someone new was watching. Someone who might change everything. Ivy's hands shook. The jumpsuit felt heavier than ever. She glanced toward Renee and Lola, then back at the stranger. A pit opened in her stomach. This was no longer about clothes, or even gossip. This was bigger. Far bigger. And she didn't know if she was ready. The courtyard fell quiet again. The wind stirred gently, rustling the leaves, nudging Ivy's hair across her face. Her eyes widened, heart pounding, as the screen of her mind replayed every glance, every whisper. She realized she had a choice, but whether she would make the right one, she didn't know. And then, almost like a shadow passing, the stranger disappeared. Just a fleeting figure, leaving Ivy alone with her fear, guilt, and the pounding knowledge that the real consequences were only beginning. The morning sun poured into the apartment, but it did nothing to warm the atmosphere. Ivy sat on the edge of her bed, the white jumpsuit folded neatly in her lap, fingers tracing the fabric as though it held all her mistakes. The room was silent, heavy with anticipation, like it knew something was about to break. She thought of the whispers, the pointing, the avoidance. How quickly admiration turned into suspicion. She felt the weight of every borrowed dress, every ruined shoe, every stolen moment of attention. And now, the hostel had turned against her entirely. The first knock came at the door around 9. Ivy froze, clutching the jumpsuit tighter. "Ivy, it's Renee," came a calm but firm voice. She opened the door. Renee stood there, arms crossed, caramel skin glowing in the morning light, hair sleek as always, eyes sharp and calculating. But something was different. There was a subtle softness in her gaze, like she had chosen her words carefully before speaking. "Ivy, we need to talk," Renee said. Ivy swallowed hard. "About what?" she asked, though she already knew. "About patterns. About trust. About everything," Renee replied, stepping inside without waiting. Lola arrived shortly after, carrying a small bag of her own, hair wrapped loosely, eyes tired but alert. She didn't speak immediately, she just observed Ivy, studying her face as if trying to read a foreign language. "You have a lot to explain," Lola said finally, voice steady, but tinged with hurt. Ivy looked at both of them, heart pounding. I thought I was doing the right thing," she said quietly. "I thought if I borrowed things, if I looked good, people would like me. I didn't mean to hurt anyone. I didn't mean for it to get this far." Renee raised an eyebrow, the kind that could pierce through stone. "Not meant to get this far. Ivy, this isn't about the clothes anymore. It's about trust. It's about respect. And that's gone." Ivy's eyes welled up. I know it is. Her voice trailed off. Lola stepped forward, hands resting on her knees. "Just what?" "Just wanted everyone to admire you. Just wanted attention." Ivy flinched. "Yes. I wanted people to notice me. I wanted to feel important." Renee shook her head. "And so you stole it. Borrowed it, hoarded it, lied about it. That's not importance. That's deception." The apartment fell silent. Ivy's tears spilled freely. She had no defense, no words strong enough to mend what she had broken. Then came the first plot twist. Renee picked up her phone, scrolling silently before handing it to Ivy. On the screen were photos of every borrowed item, every borrowed dress, every staged outfit Ivy had posted online. But then, there was something else, messages that Ivy didn't even know existed, screenshots of plans, agreements she had broken, evidence of manipulation that went beyond clothing. Ivy, Renee said quietly, this isn't just about admiration anymore. People are hurt. People feel betrayed. And the hostel wants accountability. Ivy's stomach churned. She had expected confrontation, anger, maybe tears, but not the cold, precise tracking of everything she had done. Lola, still standing beside her, shook her head slowly. Ivy, why? I didn't know it was wrong at first, Ivy admitted, voice cracking. I didn't know it would grow. I didn't know. Before she could finish, the second twist hit. A loud knock at the door. The apartment shook slightly as if the word itself had arrived. A group of students from the hostel appeared, holding a stack of packages, clothes, shoes, scarves, all labeled with their owners' names. Delivery for Ivy, one girl said coldly. We want our things back. Ivy froze. Her heart raced. I can explain, she stammered. Renee stepped forward, placing a firm hand on Ivy's shoulder. Explain now, or leave it to them, she said. Ivy swallowed, feeling the weight of every mistake pressing down. She looked at Lola, eyes pleading for understanding. Lola hesitated, then nodded ever so slightly. You have to face it, she whispered. Ivy took a deep breath. She began to return everything. Dress after dress, shoe after shoe, scarf after scarf. Each item carried its own story, its own betrayal. As she handed them over, the hostel girls whispered, some with anger, some with curiosity, some with pity. Hours passed. Ivy's arms ached, her heart heavier with each apology she murmured. By the time the last package was returned, the sun had set. The apartment felt emptier than ever. Then came the third, most shocking twist. The letter slid under the door. Ivy picked it up with trembling hands. It was anonymous. She opened it and read aloud. You returned the clothes, but what about trust? You've learned, but have you truly changed? Watch carefully, your choices still have consequences. Ivy looked at Renee and Lola, panic creeping into her chest. What does this mean? It means, Renee said softly, the hostel isn't done with you. And neither are the consequences of what you've done. The next day, Ivy walked into the courtyard. She expected whispers, but instead, she found a meeting waiting. Students, faculty, even hostel administrators were gathered. A vote had been called, a decision on whether Ivy could continue living in the hostel. Ivy's stomach dropped. She thought she had faced everything. She hadn't. Renee whispered, stay calm. You face this honestly, or it will destroy you. Ivy nodded, her palms sweaty. She stood in front of the group, heart pounding, voice quivering but honest. She confessed everything, every lie, every borrowed item, every attempt to cover it up. She didn't excuse herself. She didn't ask for leniency. She just spoke the truth. Silence followed. Then murmurs. Then the unexpected applause. The hostel had never heard honesty like this before. Some students forgave her. Some didn't. But what no one could deny was that Ivy had finally taken responsibility. Weeks passed. Ivy moved to a smaller, simpler apartment nearby. Renee and Lola stayed close, keeping their distance but remaining allies. Ivy began volunteering at community projects, learning humility, learning value beyond appearances. Then the final, unexpected twist landed. Ivy received a package one morning. Inside was a single scarf, familiar and pristine, with a note. Borrowing is easy. Owning yourself is harder. Keep learning. No signature. Ivy smiled, feeling the weight lift slightly. She knew the road ahead was long. She knew mistakes still haunted her. But for the first time, she felt capable of walking it alone. The hostel buzzed with stories about her. Some remembered her as the girl who borrowed too much, the girl who almost lost everything. Others saw her as the girl who returned more than clothes. She returned honesty, courage, and the reminder that actions always have consequences. And as she looked out her window at the city, Ivy realized, some things aren't meant to be borrowed. Some things, you must earn, own, and learn from, no matter the cost. The lessons lingered longer than the drama, and in the quiet, Ivy finally understood herself.